Today on Food for Thought, I'm with Carla Van Raay, author of God's Callgirl, a memoir published in 7 countries, and now the author of the book Healing from Abuse. Thank you for joining me today, Carla.
Lovely to be here, Deborah.
And it's an astonishing life that you've chronicled in your initial book and then you touch on in the second book. Give your audience the background to the books you've written for me.
Well, I've written 3 books in total, Deborah. The first book, God's Callgirl, a lot of your listeners would have read that book. It came out in 2004 and was a runaway success in the UK. Mm. It's the story of a girl who came to Australia from the Netherlands in 1950, which is an awful long time ago. I forget, how old I am. I've lived about 3 lives, or at least 3 lives in this one. And became a nun in Melbourne, where my father was the caretaker of the garden there, a huge 20-acre garden, and stayed a nun, a very good nun, for 12 years, and then left. I had to leave. Long story, that one. It's all in the book with great detail, all that adventurous time in the convent. And 4 years later, I became a prostitute, and then discovered, after quite some years, that both decisions were made on account of early childhood sexual abuse. Mm. So I was just sorting out my life, or sorting out my confused sexuality by making a vow of chastity, then exploring my sexuality as honestly as I could, without committing myself to a relationship at the time, because I needed to find out.
Yeah, and it is interesting that your life choices did go from one profession to another, callings that are incredibly wide apart, but most obviously were influenced from what you had to cope with the abuse that you experienced in childhood.
Yes, that's right, of course, but also with the strict Catholic upbringing that I'd had, and the fact that I entered as a virgin, did not know anything about sex or love or relationships when I came out. And only after getting married did I meet up with someone that I had a chemistry with, a connection with, a real connection, and not just on the chemistry level, but on very deep levels. And I met this young man at 19 when I was 34, and we were together for only 2 weeks. But that 2 weeks really showed me what was possible in a sexual relationship, so I could not continue with my marriage, which was nothing like that. A marriage where he loved me, but I didn't know anything about love. Mm. And that just launched me into wanting to explore my sexuality at that time, yeah. Wow. But after that, it was good for a while, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, especially not these days, because there's so much that can go wrong with the job, let's put it that way. But and I was very strongly protected. I couldn't leave it. When it was time to leave it, I could not leave it. I could not make that choice. There was a deep something going on inside me that I recognized as sabotage. So that's when I started my healing journey. I didn't realize that it was all on account of abuse until quite some time, because that was I hid that from myself so strongly. That part of me, no matter what I did in the healing journey, because I did everything, that part of me was just not accessible to anybody and to any modality whatsoever. And
how would you so securely almost boundaried it off so that it wasn't accessible?
Just by not remembering. Mm-hmm. Not remembering, refusing to remember. It was when a psychologist, she was a streetwise one from New York City, you had grown up on the streets, yeah. She asked me a very pointed question, and that just broke it completely. I just couldn't deny anything anymore, and everything fell into place. All the memories came back. So then I knew, but then I was still saddled with all these emotions, everything I had built up and hidden away. That was quite a long time ago now, but I remember that day very well. And a long healing journey followed from there, especially from 1992 when I quit my job to live down in a small country town. From then on, it was a serious healing journey. Yeah.
So she effectively almost opened Pandora's box to a certain extent.
When it happens, you have to be ready, emotionally ready. And I didn't have any guidance. I did the best I could at the time, and it took a very long time because I did not have guidance. It's much better to speak to someone who knows what's going on inside you, who because they're familiar with it, they've been trained to know what can go on, and to know that whatever you're experiencing is nothing new, really. I felt that nobody could feel the way I did. Nobody could be as horrible. The feelings were one of self-rejection and self-judgment, very severe. Yeah, because of the nature of the abuse that I had suffered when I was very little. Because I started to believe in that I was very bad. I was a bad one, not the perpetrator. And but those are just recycled feelings from millions of times. There is no unique negative feeling in the whole world that's been recycled. It's a recycled one. Very common, actually.
Yes. I didn't realise until I started to read other people's stories about how common those feelings are between people who've suffered from abuse. Yes, well, that's right. But it's so easy to believe that you're the only one feeling this way. Yeah. And that you must desperately hide it from others. Yes. That you must desperately hide it from yourself as well. Because it's very difficult to live with feelings that you believe in. You believe that you are those feelings. And what really started me on my healing journey, what made the biggest difference to me, Deborah, was that I realized one day that I was not my feelings. That was a spiritual realization, because I suddenly lost consciousness when I realized this, and came back knowing that I am an eternal being, and that this lifetime is only a very short one in the life of the soul, and here to play and experience a lot of things, and have experiences that I need to wake up from, and have experiences that I need to heal, and that's the excitement of the life. It's not just about enjoying adventures like going traveling and so forth. The big adventure is the adventure in the emotional self. But seeing it for what it really is, and knowing what's deeper than the emotions, so that you don't get stuck in there. I believe that some of our biggest learning comes from those relationships around us, and that we engage in a variety of ways. But with abuse, those relationships have really overstepped, and they've changed and destroyed trust. They've created guilt, as you say, reduced self-esteem, led to total alterations in behaviour. You say you became obedient and quiet and those sorts of things. How do you establish trust again? How do you come back and re-establish your boundaries, particularly if it's happened in your most formative years as a child? That's a very good question. Very good question, because that is the crux of the matter, isn't it? What do you do? How do you do it? Some people manage to create a new set of beliefs in their mind. Some people manage to suppress everything and create a new set that they want to believe in, and tell themselves what they want to feel, and go that way, or distract themselves an awful lot through their work or through their relationships, or some way or another, or even through spirituality, through meditation. It can be done with meditation, that suppression. I think it always takes over at some stage in life. The defenses have to come down at some stage in life, even if it's in later life and it becomes dementia or whatever it is.
it comes down. Or in relationships, facing what you want to suppress in another person. You come to meet it again. The best way to do it is to realize that you're not your feelings, and to do that, you need to have a sense of yourself as a spiritual being, because that's our nature. We may not be used to thinking of ourselves or knowing that we are spiritual beings. And I'm not talking about religion now, because religion gives us the idea that we are spiritual beings, but we are also very judged beings, and that is not what I'm talking about. As a spiritual being, we are eternal beings, and the judgment just doesn't come into the picture at all. It's all about experience, and it's all about learning, and the learning is in the field of love. It's about learning to love self, and it's about learning to love the whole of life. It's an education in love. That's what the healing journey actually is. So when you realize who you are as a spiritual being, being of love, actually, because the nature of the whole universe is the nature of love. So naturally, we are loving beings, and we are only happy, really happy, when we love. And when we are loved, but that love, being loved, is really the love we give to ourselves first. We talk about self-love, the importance of it all. Of course, it's hugely important. But that love, that self-love, has to come from the spiritual side of us, not from the psychological side who wants to spoil us and do this and do that to show love for ourselves. It goes much deeper than that.
When I read the book, it was clear from the book, though, to actually gain that love and to learn that love and to move into that arena, you do need to get clear support, don't you, to help you do that?
Yes.
It can take
right,
different
yes.
forms, and you talk about the different forms it can take. What I know that you talk about the online courses and things like that, but what was the journey that you specifically took to actually come to that point yourself?
I became a member of a spiritual community, an old mystery school community. I'm no longer a member, and I mentioned that quite a bit in the book, I think. I learned quite a lot from them. And since I've moved on, I am joining up with other spiritual circles. And it's very important to surround yourself at least with 5 people, as you know. Even in business, there's the 5 most important people in your life are the ones that have the greatest influence on you. So this can be your own spirit mentor, right? That's definitely the case. In my case, my own spirit mentor I'm very close to now, and I have a real communication system going with upstairs, if you like, through my spiritual mentor, my spirit mentor. And but apart from that, I'm also connected with very wise friends and wise people in some in the USA. I sign up for courses like Tim Kelly's course, for instance, bestowing the blessing on yourself.
Okay.
That's been amazing for me. I've only been there for a couple of weeks, but realizing what your blessing is. Everyone has the ability to bless themselves and others with their special gift, with their special learning. And in my case, it was in 1999 when I realized my innocence, when I realized that at a very deep level that I had always been innocent. No matter what I experienced or what I thought of myself, I was innocent. That my nature is innocent. And I realized it's about everybody. Everybody is innocent. Everybody does the best they can going through life, making decisions, picking up beliefs, living out their beliefs, making the learnings. Everybody does the best they can at any time There's no judgment involved in that. There's just choices and consequences. And I had to give that innocence to my father, who was the abuser in my life, the main abuser in my life. I don't hesitate. I can say this now without any hesitation whatsoever. I've been around as a human being for so long, for so many centuries, millions of years. Actually, I've done everything. There's nothing I haven't done. There's nothing that you can say somebody else has done that's awful that I haven't done myself. And there's probably nothing that somebody's done really well that I haven't done myself either. I've been around, so judgment is very silly. It doesn't apply. But this innocence that I realized and I've given to everyone, that's what I want to bring across to others, if I can possibly do this. Everyone is innocent. There's no need to walk around with guilt and shame. And if you have those feelings, they need to be loved. They need to be acknowledged and loved for being there, so that you can go beyond them, grow beyond them. And when you grow beyond them, you grow. So without having those feelings, you can't actually grow. They're there so we can grow, but they're not there for us to live with eternally, for always.
Now, this isn't beginner's work. You say that yourself in the book. It's not beginner's work. It takes commitment, focus, facing your truth, and it can take many lifetimes. That's a huge journey to consider then, isn't it?
It can take many lifetimes, but I feel at the moment, Deborah, that there is an energy around that it makes it much easier these days. There is a push for change in the universe, around our planet. There is an energy for change that is making it much more possible to move faster.
Yes.
Than when I was young. There are new kind of people coming into the world. There is a need for change. And I think if you decide to change, you'll find the assistance that you need to go forward quite rapidly. Once you have the thing that makes the biggest change, you see, is the realization that you are a spiritual being. Once you have accepted that you're not your emotions, you are not your beliefs, you have those things, but you are not them. You even have a soul, but you are not your soul, which can also be damaged. You are bigger than all of that. Once you have that basic realization, then things can speed up much more quickly. You don't have to battle with all those feelings for so long as the way I did it. I did it the long way.
Have you healed through many lifetimes, do you think?
Oh yes, yeah. This lifetime is about ending lots of cycles. Lots of cycles. Yeah, you start this journey and you've got all these opportunities to do one bang, 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 one after the other. It's a bit like playing pinball.
That's a really interesting metaphor. Now, when you start on this journey, it really can be, throughout the book you're talking about listening to your instincts, your wisdom, spirit, but that can be one of the hardest things to do, can't it? Because in many respects, even those people who haven't had a level of abuse in their life, we override our instincts continuously in our society. How do we start to listen? How do we engage again?
Okay. Well, every one of us has a spirit mentor. Every one of us has a guide, a spiritual guide that we can call on. This being, who may not have been a human being at all, but who is one of unconditional love, has decided from the very beginning to be here for everyone, for every person, to be here for you. And you can call on this being. You can call on him. On this being, it's not a him or a her, but it's someone who loves enormously and is extremely wise. And one thing you can do is call on this being and start a conversation with it. Ask questions and get answers. Listen listen and for answers. That's one way of doing it. If you don't know anybody to talk to whom you believe is wiser than yourself, that could be a starting point. Certainly meditation is a good starting point, provided that it is not just designed to create relaxation, but a meditation that is geared towards self-knowledge. And there are people that teach this kind of meditation. It's good to find them out. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you started on this journey, and in the book you talk about it's often a difficult, it's not easy to heal. The pace can be changeable throughout it. It often isn't a fast one, but you'll get results when you least expect them. I see this with my clients. I'm a naturopath, so I'm working in a different field, but ultimately I see that people sometimes make the biggest jumps and in the most spontaneous of ways when you least expect them. Can you just talk about some of those times that you experienced so that my audience can, have an understanding about that?
These things happen very often in a space of silence. Yes, just in a listening mode. That's why meditation, so-called meditation, is important. It's really a time for listening to information or to your own wisdom, listening to what information is there for you. And then insights can come just like that, can come to you just like that. And sometimes they come without much preparation. Sometimes they come after some asking. There needs to be some persistence in asking the questions, in giving attention to the possible answers. The answers are always positive. That's a clue as to whether the answer is true or not. They're always positive, always healing answers. The answers that come from truth are never put-downs of the self, for instance. They never make things worse. They never call you bad. I have a support program on via my website, of course, for readers of the book and for anyone who wants to start on this healing journey. I want to be a support for people via this program and via email and one-on-one sessions. I make myself available that way. Yeah. I'm only one person in the world, though, but I am gathering names of people who want to make themselves available as counselors, as therapists, as people who are particularly interested in this topic of healing from abuse. Yeah, so they can contact me if they want to. You being a naturopath, Deborah, that's very interesting because you would know that that abuse has physical effects as well.
It's one of my questions. Yes, it really does. And I noticed, in the book you talk about it almost killing you, and you realise that actually the experience that was still living on throughout your body, and almost the compartmentalisation that you'd placed over what had happened to you, that you were living two lives, which was incredibly stressful because you were hiding what had happened. And, that stress obviously was playing out in your body. And as you were talking, you talk about in the book about the digestion. I don't think people realise at times there's a physical side, not just the actual from the physical abuse itself, but from the mental trauma that then plays out in the body for the rest of your life, potentially.
Absolutely, it does. And as you say, the digestive system is the one that seems to absorb most of that tension. It can get so upset. Yeah, that's right. And then that gets worse over time. And when it's not recognized, it becomes different kinds of diseases. It can cause different kinds of diseases coming from the gut, of course, stemming from the gut, imbalance in the gut of all kinds. Yeah.
And in your own words in the book, you say you couldn't stomach it. And I hear that a lot from clients, how, they are giving indications about how something that's been traumatic for them has then started to play out through the rest of their body. They can't handle it anymore, and they may have problems with their hands, for instance. And so it is very interesting how, we can have trauma, and then we will continue to experience it after that, and it can lead to chronic disease states, sadly.
Yes, it can, because there's constant imbalance in the body. The emotional turmoil creates constant imbalance. That's right.
Now, there's a lot more abuse going on in society. We're a lot more aware of it now, but at the same time, there's significant amounts. It's actually very scary how ingrained it is in parts of our society, isn't it?
It's not even recognized as abuse a lot of the time. Parents, for instance, who put down their children, they are abusing their children, but they don't recognize it. They've been abused that way themselves, and they think this is the thing to do. It actually does. It makes children strong, and it prevents them from getting a big head or something like that, or makes them obedient or good children. It doesn't. It just destroys their self-esteem, and in my experience, a person who has a very low self-esteem is, as Caroline Myss, she says this, they are missiles. They become missiles. They do a lot of damage to other people because they've been damaged themselves, and they don't mind damaging others. They don't even know that they're doing it. So, the self-esteem of a child needs to be nurtured and in a very healthy way, of course. But if it's not, that is a form of abuse. And children who are not recognized for who they are, for their particular talents, or expected to be like everybody else, their gender, for instance, or their talents, or their expectations of them. Children are all so different, and it can be very abusive to expect them to be what you think they should be.
I was
instead of.
Sorry,
go on.
I was just going to say I was absolutely astonished. It's not only reading your story, but in a number of other stories, how your mother failed to protect you against your father, but then saw you as a rival for his attention. That I can't comprehend that, I have to say. I come from a loving family, and I have no comprehension of that at all, how a mother could do that, or could be like that.
Yes, well, you're a different generation. My mother passed away about 20 years ago now. Yes, well, every generation, I think, has a different opportunity to go beyond the previous generation. But my mother definitely, it was never spoken about, the topic. She had to keep it all under her belt. She had to notice things and not say anything. For her to say something would have made things worse.
Okay.
Like I spoke up and made things infinitely worse for myself.
In your rebelling moments.
I understand my mother, and I have compassion for her, for her stance that she took, because she was so desperate, expecting to be pregnant all the time. She wasn't allowed to say no to her husband. She had one child after another during the war time, When we left in 1950 to go to Australia, there were 7 children. I was the eldest of 7 children.
Wow.
Yeah.
And as you say, everyone is innocent, Everyone's just doing their best in this life.
Yep, that's right. Exactly. That is so true. That is so true. And even if people don't believe this about themselves, they believe that they know something and they go against what they know. Oh, we all do this. I did this. I went against what I knew. When I read my journals from, say, 40 years ago, what? Did I know that back then? What? Or why did I have to learn that all over again, Yeah. But this is what we do. We get insights, we learn something, and then we forget about it, or we don't trust the knowing. We don't trust the learning. The more we do this, of course, the more we trust what is given to us and act on it, the faster we grow. I'm 77, I'm heading out of this life.
I have to say, you really don't look 77 on your pictures at all. And I only realised your age because of the research.
Oh, yeah, but, pictures, that can be a trick of the light as well, as you know. I'm doing very well, actually. I think I'm doing very well, but all the same, it's taken me a long time to learn. Yeah. It can be done in a much shorter time.
Can you ever truly heal from abuse, or do you just learn to live with it?
Oh, you can heal from abuse too, but the journey keeps on going, because really healing from abuse is the healing from everything. It's the healing, you peel away all the layers, that's how it's put sometimes, and the deeper you go, the more you find out, but it becomes easier. Because what you discover about yourself, then you know it's not you. When you don't have that identification with whatever comes up, then it becomes so much easier to deal with it. You just love it. You just pour love into that wound from so long ago, from another lifetime. You see, when you've healed the wounds of this lifetime, you can start healing the wounds of other lifetimes and of other selves, because we are multi-dimensional personalities after all. Well, I'm sorry if I confuse people by saying things like that, but you keep on healing, you keep on loving whatever comes up. That's it, you just keep loving it. It becomes easier.
Okay. Now, you say on the Facebook page, actually, healing from abuse is one of the most beautiful things a person can decide to do. It is only scary because it can so profoundly change you that life is never the same again. The book sets a series of challenges to the reader, I have to say. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just cover some of those challenges that you've set people?
The challenge is really the challenge of change, because it's the ego who wants to keep us the way we are. What we are familiar with is very comfortable, so we don't want to go. The ego doesn't want to go beyond the comfort zone. If you think you are an ego, then you won't want to change, and you will allow yourself to change to a degree. But then comes a real change, a profound change, and the resistance comes up. Now, I know this from personal experience as well, because when I did the work of Byron Katie, which was a very strong process for me, the work of Byron Katie, I did a fortnight's live-in to do this process. And I came with my story that my father had ruined my life. And the work of Byron Katie is one that turns your stories around. So halfway through those 2 weeks, I was faced with the prospect of saying that my father had been a blessing in my life, and that my life was a blessing. And there's part of me that did not want to know this. I had to struggle so much to keep that decision, to make that decision. There's part of me that wanted to faint, that wanted to go to sleep, that didn't want to be there, to die actually, rather than take this choice. And I managed to make the choice. And that's why I got the reward. A very big change happened at that time. But I had to fight for it. It's not easy to make some fundamental choices. You have to use your willpower. You have to keep choosing. Keep choosing what you know is the truth. Keep choosing what you know is the truth. Sometimes that's what it takes. It takes a lot of energy sometimes. And that's why it's a good idea to look after your body and your level of energy, to make sure that you're healthy when you do this kind of work, as healthy as possible.
Is that what it means to truly heal then?
What does it mean to truly heal? To keep making those choices?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a question of keeping on making those choices, exactly. Being true, choosing what you know is true, and keep choosing, making that choice. But what is true most of all, of course, is that we are loved, we are loved, we come from love, we are love, we are loved. And the temptation to believe that we are not we are not, that we are ugly, or that we are horrible in some way, or not lovable in some way. Those things need to be loved. That's the choice for love has to go there. The choice for love has to go everywhere. That's the healing process. But it's a choice.
Carla, this has been one of the most lovely interviews I've had. Can you give people your contact details so that they can find your website and get in contact with you for your membership program? Get your book.
Sure. The website is just my name, www.carlavanraay.com. And Carla Van Raay has 5 A's in it. Carla Van Raay, R-A-A-Y, Carla with a C. And so when you get there and you want to email me, it's or you can email me anytime on info@carlavanraay.com. So that's quite easy.
Thank you.
And I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. It's
I
been
spent quite a lot of time in the UK.
Have you?
Well, as a nun.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that where you were a nun then?
Yeah. I was in Manchester for 3 years during my teacher training in Sedgley College, which is now in a police academy.
Yes.
And, I went back there. It was just amazing to go back there. And I went to several convents around the UK. Mm. Especially the one that's no longer there, I think, at Broadstairs. The mother convent was at Broadstairs. Yeah. It might have fallen into the sea by now.
I don't know. My father used to be a postman and he delivered to a convent, and they always made him a cup of tea, and I always had a really interesting chat with him. And that was in Levenshire, in Manchester. And he used to take us in to say hello to the nuns. They were lovely.
Well,
lovely
the nuns can be very charming indeed. I mean, the faithful companions of Jesus, the FCJs that I used to belong to, they had class and they had very good manners, and they were lovely.
There's a world apart.
So I can imagine them giving a cup of tea to the postman, actually.
Carla, this has been such a special interview. Thank you so much for joining me on Food for Thought and giving your wisdom to my audience.
It was a privilege. Thank you so much. I enjoyed myself very much too.
Thank you.